Hi, good morning to everyone. My name is Joel Ocasio-Marcano. I am the Procurement Deputy Director of the Procurement Division for the Community Development Program Disaster Recovery and Mitigation, CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT programs. In this pre-proposal meeting, we're going to explain the process for the CDBG-MIT-RFP-2022-04. Request for proposals for single-family housing development initiatives. I would like to introduce the Puerto Rico Department of Housing personnel. Along with me is Ruth Hernandez Mendez, procurement official, Vanessa Covis Ross, procurement specialist. With us is also Dulce Diaz Campos from the Housing Division, Alejandro Castro, Horn representative, and Jorge Maldonado Bestard from the Federal Compliance and Subrecipient Management Division. Any questions submitted in this meeting will be answered in writing and will be published in an addendum. Any information provided in this meeting does not change the terms and conditions established in the request for proposal. All procurement processes shall be conducted in accordance with the terms and conditions established in the procurement manual for the CDBG-DR program to guarantee full and open competition and fair treatment of all persons or entities involved in each procurement process. The procurement manual is available at our webpage and is incorporated by reference and made an integral part of this RFP. As I said before, nothing said in this pre-proposal meeting would change any of the terms of the RFP, except those written in an amendment to the solicitation issued through an addendum. And now we have a presentation from the Housing Division for an explanation of the scope of work. Dulce.
Good morning again to everyone. The main objective of this presentation is to provide a general overview of the single-family housing development initiative. Let's start with the introduction. Puerto Rico Department of Housing issued a request for proposal to procure single-family housing developers to support Vivienda to complete all the tasks required for the development, construction, and completion of the dwellings. Proposals are expected to strengthen this initiative by providing their experience, technical knowledge, and expertise. Proposals are to identify, evaluate, conduct pre-development activities to determine the scope, cost, time, and feasibility of completing this proposed project. Between the CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT single-family programs, Puerto Rico Department of Housing estimates that more than 6,000 applicants with a relocation voucher may benefit from the program and initiatives. Puerto Rico Department of Housing intends to purchase up to 1,000 units in an initial phase. Additional phases may be implemented to purchase up to 3,000 units depending on funds, allocation, single-family housing needs, and the performance of the contractor developers. The contractor entities are expected to perform as a design-build, single-source entity. The main objective of completing the proposed units in the allotted period of the performance, 24 months. Vivienda intends to purchase completed units with a period of performance and as defined in the scope of work and contract documents. In the following map, illustrate the allocation and concentration of current and potential CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT distribution of relocation cases with the Puerto Rico Planning Board functioning as area. Let's talk about project requirements. Following the preliminary section of the project, it must undergo an environmental review process. The environmental review process determines a project potential environmental impact and whether it meets federal, state, and local environmental standards and regulations. The environmental review at a site-specific level will be prepared by the developers, evaluated, and approved by PRDOH. Upon contract execution, the developer will diligently engage its organization to complete all the activities required for the project in a timely manner. A complete coordinated set of construction documents must be submitted to the Puerto Rico Department of Housing for record keeping. This must be consistent with the proposed project submitted, EER requirements, and complying with the regulatory agency's requirements. Now I'm going to pass to Alejandro Castro, who will continue with other details.
Thank you, Dulce. So the next couple of slides will give you a general overview of the project submission and requirements. General information. As part of their submission, the proposers will include their project location, the quantity of units, a project plan and schedule, a permitting plan, the design deliverables as detailed in the scope of work, a detailed cost estimate, and the reasonable sales price of their proposed units, and other requirements. Proposers will submit any relevant information to demonstrate their ability to complete the project under the period of performance. Design deliverables. The developers shall propose a minimum of 25 units and a maximum of 100 units per project submission. At minimum, a conceptual design phase will be submitted by the proposers as part of the RFP submission package. Nevertheless, if the proposers have a design development or construction documents, they can certainly submit them as well. Duties and responsibilities. Proposers are expected to secure financing to complete their proposed units. Proposers are responsible for ensuring the quality, completeness, accuracy, and timeliness to avoid unnecessary delays. Contracted developers will work in PRDOH's best interest in administering and implementing all the project activities. In the next couple of slides, I will give you a general overview of the minimum architectural and design standards. This may be outperformed with better performance materials, products, and techniques. First, the single-family units will be detached, one level. We'll have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, a minimum construction area of 1,150 square feet. This excludes the carport, driveway, walkway, and others. The structure's primary material of construction will be reinforced concrete. Design solutions shall be elaborated in such a way that these units are readily adaptable to accommodate ADA details and features. These units will include a roof-covered carport for 1 vehicle. Any products or appliances must comply with Energy Star and WaterSense. The units will include a photovoltaic system with battery storage and water storage system. Please refer to the minimum architectural and design standards for further details. The following couple of slides will give you a general overview of how we're going to be deemed as a unit being completed. When the following conditions are met, a unit may be deemed as completed. All punch list items have been corrected. The architect of record provides the certificate of completion. The project's infrastructure is completed, and an occupancy permit is obtained. The green building standard certification is obtained, a closeout binder is provided, and all the required documents are correct and complete. Upon a unit completion request, PRDOH may proceed with the property assessment. This assessment will include an evaluation to verify the overall safety and quality of the property, validate overall compliance with the initiative's requirements. Keynote: it is encouraged that these units are completed in adjacent groups or bundles, not scattered within the project, to expedite the assessment process and eventually the closing and property acquisition. Purchase of completed units. PRDOH may purchase completed units at a reasonable sales price. PRDOH may purchase these units when these comply with all the initiative's requirements. PRDOH will not issue payments, reimbursements, progress payments, or finance the developer's operation or project. Real estate closings. When deemed as completed, the developers and PRDOH may proceed with the property acquisition or the real estate closing event. Keynotes: properties must be segregated, registered, and possess notarial deeds. The developers may draft the proposer's deeds for the real estate closing event. The developer and PRDOH tasks and fees will be covered by each party as per real estate industry standards. A PRDOH authorized realtor may assist to schedule the real estate closing event. We hope this presentation gave you a general knowledge and understanding of the Single Family Housing Development Initiative scope of work, minimum architectural and design standards. Please make sure that your submission documents are correct, complete, meet the RFP requirements and instruction. Good luck to everyone, and thank you for your audience.
Thank you, Alejandro. The RFP documents are available for download at the CDBG-DR website. The important dates of this RFP are the following: submission of questions and requests for clarifications on or before January 20, 2023, responses to questions and requests for clarifications on January 31, 2023, their proposals due dates from March 6, 2023 at 9 a.m. up to March 8, 2023 at 4 p.m. Each prospective proposers shall submit all questions in writing on or before January 20, 2023 to the CDBG-DR mailing address. Responses to all proposers' questions will be answered by addenda and will be posted on the CDBG-DR website. All documents related to this acquisition process, including the addendas issued by the Puerto Rico Department of Housing, are and will be available for download at the CDBG-DR website. All proposers are responsible to monitor the CDBG-DR website for any issued addenda in this RFP. Proposals are to be submitted on the proposals due date stated in Section 4.3 of this RFP. Responses to the RFP submitted after the prescribed deadline will not be allowed. Submissions of responses to the RFP will only be accepted by electronic means. Proposers are advised that the PRDOH will neither require nor accept physical proposal submissions. If proposals are submitted in both electronic means and in paper format, the PRDOH will only consider the electronic format for evaluation.
The proposer will receive access to submit the electronic proposals after the registration process is completed through the CDBG-DR website. At the scheduled due date for electronic proposal submission, a link button will be enabled to provide access to the registration form. Proposers should complete all the required fields in the form. Proposal must be submitted within the closing date and time for proposals as established in Section 4.3 of this RFP. Access to upload the electronic proposals will commence 3 business days before the scheduled due date and time. Now Vanessa will continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Ruth. Now we'll be explaining the evaluation criteria and the SAM registration process. Regarding the evaluation criteria, proposals will be evaluated using a best value approach. Proposers will be awarded points based on their technical capabilities, the characteristics of the project plan, the construction readiness of the project, and the proposed pricing. The following table presents the maximum points for each technical requirement of the proposal. The submission requirements such as proposal submission, financial stability, certification affidavit, authorization request, and organizational documents will be evaluated as a pass or fail. The qualifications requirements compose of the proposer's qualifications and experience. The organizational structure and staff qualifications will have a maximum of 25 points. The plan of action or work approach requirements will have a maximum of 75 points. And the cost requirements will have a maximum of 50 points for a total scoring of 150 points. If the proposal complies with the Section 3 and MWBE preference, 5 additional points will be assigned for a total scoring with preference of 155 points. A score to each evaluation criteria will be assigned by an evaluation committee. To be considered a qualified proposer, proposers need to obtain a score greater than or equal to 70 points in the evaluation of their qualifications and plan of action or work approach. Regarding the System for Award Management registration process, the proposer and first-year subcontractors must be registered in the System for Award Management at the time of the proposal submission or initiate the registration process right after the proposal submission. For more information about the System for Award Management, go to www.sam.gov. There's no registration fee to create or renew your organization's information on SAM. Awards will only be issued to entities that are clear and not ineligible for award of a contract due to suspension, debarment, or hot impulse limited denial of participation. Now I will leave you with Jorge Maldonado from the Federal Compliance Division for more details on Section 3 and MWBE.
Good morning to all. I'm Jorge Maldonado from the Federal Compliance Division.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the space to present compliance and labor standards requirements. This presentation is prepared in English. However, should anyone need this presentation in Spanish, you can request using the protocols for this procurement to submit the request. I am representing the Department of Housing Federal Compliance team led by Maria del Carmen Figueroa. Today we will discuss as part of our agenda an overview of compliance roles and responsibilities. We will also cover some tools that are available online. We will also talk about documenting efforts, taking advantage of training that's made available, and reporting requirements as well as frequently asked questions. In this presentation, we will be discussing Section 3 training, hiring, and contracting opportunities, minority and women-owned business participation, fair housing and equal opportunity, and DavisBacon and the related acts. Contractors or subrecipients using CDBG-DR or CDBG-MIT funding have certain roles and responsibilities. These include assigning staff who will attend the day-to-day implementation of federal compliance requirements, attending trainings and workshops, using tools and templates, executing the activities, and completing documentation that's required. You can also participate in Department of Housing sponsored technical assistance sessions. You must complete quarterly reporting and comply with the reporting requirements. The procurement package contains language that offers contractors the ability to seek bonus points. Please remember to use the references and the templates that are made available and that we will be discussing in this presentation. Proposers seeking Section 3 bonus points should provide their self-certifications and sufficient evidence for how they qualify as a Section 3 business. The Department of Housing offers a template on their website. Proposers who are seeking MBE or WBE bonus points should provide a copy of their MWBE certification to provide evidence of this status. The certificates provided should show the dates and indicate that they are currently active. The procurement package contains sections that speak to the applicability and the requirements for MWBE. Within those sections, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide. Procurement packages also contain language for Section 3 under 24 CFR 75. This language speaks to the applicability and compliance with Section 3. Within the section, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide and self-certification templates. Let's talk about Section 3. Section 3 is a federal requirement from the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. This requirement states that we should provide to the greatest extent feasible job training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities generated by this HUD financial assistance to be directed to low and very low income persons and businesses. The Department of Housing makes available a Section 3 policy guide on their website, both in English and in Spanish. Contractors must read and implement activities as applicable and necessary. They also are responsible for their subcontractors assuring that benchmarks are met. For Section 3 projects, 24 CFR 75 has established the following benchmarks. 25% of the total labor hours for a project should be work hours of Section 3 workers. And from that 25%, 5% of the total labor hours should be work hours of targeted Section 3 workers. Let's talk about the definition of a Section 3 business. A Section 3 business refers to a business concern meeting at least one of the following criteria, which is documented within the last 6 months. The business is at least 51% owned and controlled by low or very low income persons. It could also be a business that has at least 51% ownership and controlled by a public housing resident or residents who currently live in Section 8 assisted housing. It could also be a business that has over 75% of the labor hours performed for that business over the prior 3-month period by Section 3 workers. In this slide, we're going to look at the definition of a Section 3 worker. A Section 3 worker can be any worker who fits or, when hired within the last 5 years, fit at least one of the following categories. The worker's income for the previous or annualized calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. It could also be a worker who is employed by a Section 3 business concern. Or the worker is a youth build participant. Now let's talk about what a targeted Section 3 worker is. A Section 3 targeted worker for community development financial assistance projects is a person who is employed by a Section 3 business. It could also be a person who currently fits or when hired fit at least one of the following categories as documented within the past 5 years. Someone living within the service area or the neighborhood of the project as defined in 24 CFR 75.5, or a youth bill participant. The neighborhood or service area for a targeted Section 3 worker is that in which you can find at least 5,000 persons within a 1-mile radius of the project. If there are less than 5,000 persons within that 1-mile radius, you can expand that radius until you have 5,000 persons around the Section 3 covered project site. Each year, HUD releases new income limits. These income limits typically come out around April. The latest income limits for 2022 are made available on the slide. The Department of Housing has created various forms for helping maintain compliance. There is a Section 3 plan that can be used by contractors or subrecipients. There are also Section 3 self-certification forms. And finally, there is a form to help you document your efforts. Let's take a closer look at your Section 3 plan. This document helps you identify new hiring needs, subcontracting needs. It helps you plan your outreach efforts and assists your coordinators in identifying the day-to-day activities. It helps you define compliant procedures, and it helps you understand your reporting requirements. You can use the link on the slide to visit the website and download a Section 3 plan template. In this slide, we want to focus on the Section 3 self-certification forms. These useful tools help you uncover if workers or subcontracting businesses meet the income thresholds required. HUD offers also a business registry. This registry allows you to register yourself as a Section 3 business. The registry also has a tool that helps serve folks looking for Section 3 business databases. We will now turn our attention to minority and women-owned business compliance. There are various regulations that call for the inclusion of minorities and women business enterprises. 2 CFR 200.321, as well as Executive Orders 11625, 12138, and 12432 establish the participation of MWBE firms, which seek to ensure that when possible, contracts and other economic opportunities funded in whole or in part with federal housing and community development assistance are directed to minority business enterprises and women business enterprises. The Department of Housing has established an MWBE policy guide. This is available on the website in both English and Spanish. You can access those documents using the link on the slide. Let's look at what a minority business enterprise is. An MBE is defined as a business which is at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled on a daily basis by one or more American citizens of the following ethnic minority and/or gender and/or military veteran classifications: African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Native American, Hasidic Jew, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. Women business enterprises, or WBEs, are businesses that are at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women. The owners must be U.S. citizens or legal resident aliens whose business formation and principal place of business are here in the U.S. or its territories, and whose management and daily operation is controlled by women. The MWBE policy guide will identify that there are goals which apply to professional services, purchasing supplies, and construction contracting. There is a total of 20% minimum participation goal. This 20% is comprised of 10% for women-owned businesses and 10% for minority-owned businesses. Contractors are expected to perform good faith efforts for contracting, subcontracting, and purchasing opportunities of $10,000 or more during the life of the contract. The Department of Housing has also created various forms for helping maintain compliance with MWBE. One of those is the MWBE Utilization Plan. This document template allows contractors or subrecipients to identify how they plan on being in compliance with these contracting goals. There is also a waiver form. This document allows contractors or subrecipients to identify if they meet the requirements to waive their goals for MWBE. Let's look at the MWBE Utilization Plan. This tool helps you compile data for your subcontracting. It helps you identify what needs you may have. It helps hold discussions on creating supplier and contractor listings, and it provides awareness of meeting the goal for the contract and tracking. You can use the link on the slide to go to the website and download the plan template. Let's review how you should complete your MWBE Utilization Plan. The Department of Housing Utilization Plan template can be used throughout the life cycle of your contract. Completing the plan is pretty easy. You should read the general instructions in row 3 and complete sections A, B, and F from the document. Complete the information requested in the yellow cells. When we talk about certified minority or women-owned businesses, we are referring to those who have filed applications with federal entities such as SBA and others that you see here on the slide. Businesses who are certified can provide proof of completing an application process to be officially recognized as a certified minority or women-owned business. If you are registered as an MWBE, you should provide your valid certificate or other evidence in response to this RFP. In this section, we will be discussing how to complete your efforts and quarterly reporting. In order for you to report your efforts, the Department of Housing provides a tool. This tool helps you document and identify how often you are seeking interactions with Section 3 businesses and MWBE businesses. The quarterly reporting form allows for you to share and report your data with the Department of Housing. This allows the agency to fulfill oversight responsibilities and monitor the progress throughout the year. The Department of Housing's quarterly reporting form allows for the user to capture multiple compliance areas all in one Excel form. Section 3 data is collected. MWBE data is collected as well. FHEO information is also documented within the report. And finally, for those who have construction projects, there is a report for DavisBacon Unfound Workers Efforts Reporting. Awarded contractors will be responsible for reporting 4 times a year, on April 5th, July 5th, October 5th, and January 5th. This ensures that you are meeting benchmarks and documenting your efforts. The quarterly reporting template is also available on the Department of Housing website. Let's briefly discuss FHEO. Your RFP package will also contain a model contract which outlines fair housing and equal opportunity areas of compliance. Contractors are responsible for ensuring compliance with federal civil rights and fair housing through their contractors, subcontractors, and so forth, ensuring that all necessary efforts are being made. The Fair Housing Act and Sections 109 and 504 prohibit discrimination against the following protected classes of people: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, familial status, disability, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Fair Housing Act is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are many executive orders, laws, and statutes that govern the non-discrimination of protected classes to ensure equal opportunity for individuals in accessing federally funded programs. Equal opportunity is afforded to protected classes through a number of these federal laws and executive orders. The Department of Housing has published policy documents attending FHEO as well as Language Access Plan. These policies must be implemented by contractors and subrecipients. They are publicly available online in both English and Spanish. You are encouraged to click on the links and access the resources available. As a recipient of HUD financial assistance, the Department of Housing must ensure that all programs affirmatively further access to fair housing and that the programs provide equal opportunity for participation and employment. Reasonable accommodations are changes made to policies, practices, services, and structures or modifications to afford equal opportunity to individuals with disabilities. The costs associated with providing reasonable accommodations and modifications are to be incurred by programs receiving federal funding. HUD contemplates these additional costs as necessary to ensure that the programs and activities it funds do not discriminate against people with disabilities. The slide contains a link for you to access the reasonable accommodation page on the Department of Housing website. Limited English proficiency refers to a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English. Due to Puerto Rico's high Spanish-speaking population, all entities and contractors using the CDBG-DR funding must seek to ensure that both a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English or Spanish will not place them at a disadvantage in the participation of programs. In this section, we will now talk about the DavisBacon Act and the related acts. The Department of Housing has published the DavisBacon Policy Guide and made it available in English and in Spanish. The Department of Housing, its subrecipients, and their contractors must implement and comply with this policy when it's applicable. Most construction projects funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funds must comply with DavisBacon and related acts requirements to ensure that laborers and mechanics are paid prevailing wages. This includes overtime for the work performed on these federally funded projects. Contractors awarded contracts with these federal funds are responsible for understanding and complying with DavisBacon and related act requirements. The Department of Housing and its subrecipients are responsible for oversight. This includes reviewing payroll and other records related to the work performed using these federal funds for construction projects and ensure compliance with the requirements. In this presentation, we will discuss the applicability of these federal labor standards: Housing and Community Development Act, 29 CFR 5, DavisBacon Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, and the Copeland Anti-Kickback Act. The DavisBacon Act requires payment of prevailing wages as determined by the Department of Labor. It provides a fair opportunity to compete in building programs funded by the federal government. It prevents contractors from bidding below an area's prevailing wages. This law and requirement generally applies to federally funded or assisted programs that are valued at more than $2,000. Contracts for the following types of work on public buildings or public works include construction, alteration and repair, and even painting and decorating. The Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, known as QASA, states that workers should not work more than 40 hours a week unless they are being compensated overtime, and that projects must comply with certain safety standards. The Copeland Anti-Kickback Act requires that there be payment of wages at least once a week, and it only speaks to permissible payroll deductions being allowed. The Fair Labor Standards Act sets the federal minimum wages and additional overtime requirements. In this slide, we discuss who from a construction project funded with CDBG-DR CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT is responsible for implementing DavisBacon and the related acts. The implementation begins with the project team, who will be responsible for reviewing payrolls and preparing invoice packages. Procurement teams are also responsible for incorporating the correct compliance documents and wage rates within the procurement packages. Legal teams are responsible for incorporating correct compliance documents and wage rates in contracts before they are executed. The compliance team for each respective entity will be responsible for guiding the compliance activities that happen. Contractors and subcontractors working on the projects that are funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT are directly responsible for implementing the day-to-day compliance with the DavisBacon Act and the related acts. The following slide discusses the major phases that are found within a construction project. There are activities that happen during procurement, during the pre-bid meeting, during a pre-construction meeting, during a contract signing, during on-site interviews, collecting and reviewing certified payrolls, notifying prime contractors, and when the project finishes, producing the project closeout letter, and finally, the ongoing reporting and record keeping.
Yes, there has been a technical difficulty. We're verifying the presentation. Jorge, is that the last part of the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna publish the addendum the presentation so everyone can have the opportunity to have the last information of that presentation. So we're sorry for the inconvenience, but we're gonna share with you. We're gonna publish in an addendum this presentation so you can have all the information. Thank you, Jorge.
Okay, got it.
Well, that's all the information we have for everyone today. We have been taking notes of your questions and we will be answered them by an addendum. In the same addendum, we will be publishing this presentation so you can have all the information. Please take note of the important dates for this process. And that will be all for today. So thank you for being here. And any questions, you can submit them by written, by email to our procurement email that is on all our documents. So have a nice day. Thank you very much.